Welcome back to the Owner Seat Podcast. Today, we're talking about the biggest demand shock to hit fitness and wellness in a decade and what operators are actually supposed to do with it. GLP-1 drugs change what your members eat, what they weigh, and what they think their bodies are supposed to do. Every operator listening has felt it. Members are asking questions they've never asked before, and they're asking them at the front desk. Meanwhile, the shelf behind the front desk is filling up with products, supplements, making bigger and bigger promises, and most owners have no framework for evaluating any of it. That is the conversation I want to have today. Not whether a category is hot, it's how an operator decides what is real. Lekha Vyas is the founder and CEO of SYNQ Wellness and the founder and CEO of ELVY Lab. You've heard of these brands. They're amazing. They're everywhere. She's a second-time founder based in New York. And here's why I wanted to have her on the show. And it isn't just because of the product. It's the experience behind it. Lekha spent more than 5 years at Procter & Gamble leading supply chain planning and operations. Then she moved into leadership roles across some of the largest beauty companies in the world. Listen to these. At L'Oreal, she played a key role in the Urban Decay acquisition and integration, running supply chain planning, retail planning, and global business planning. Then Chanel as director of inside sales, then Estee Lauder as executive director and global business planning, where she led global planning initiatives, portfolio strategy, and M&A integration. What doesn't she do? This is amazing. Then Guthrie Renker Ventures as head of strategic planning and operations, helping evaluate, incubate, and scale emerging consumer brands. She was also part of the founding team behind JLo Beauty. My goodness, that background truly matters. Most founders in the supplement industry come out of marketing or product development. Lekha comes out of enterprise strategy, supply chain, operations, and commercialization. She spent her career building systems at scale, managing complex global product portfolios, integrating acquisitions, forecasting demand, and bringing consumer brands to market. So let's get to the company. This is a great company. You're going to hear more about them. SYNQ Wellness is developing a patent-pending oral dissolving film platform focused on metabolic health. The first product combines DHB with 6 additional plant-derived bioactives and fast-dissolving oral strips. This is completely different than anything you've seen. Rather than creating another supplement, the company's thesis is that formulation and delivery can be just as important as ingredient selection. SYNQ is focused on supporting metabolic health through a novel delivery platform while building what Lekha believes will become a broader oral delivery platform across multiple wellness categories. The company has built an early access waitlist. I'm one of them, of more than 4,800 people, and has publicly documented much of its product development as it prepares for launch. And Lekha, I love what you're doing on LinkedIn. It's so good. And I wanted to welcome you to the Owner Seat Podcast. Let's jump right in. I'm so excited.
Me too. Let's do this.
Let's do it. So I first want to go back a little bit though. So 5 years at Procter & Gamble in supply chain planning and operations that I mentioned, L'Oreal, and you have the list of the major brands. It's amazing. But now you're running a company with one product, right? As the founder, one product, no operating history, at a fraction of the resources. I can only imagine how big those marketing budgets are for those brands. But what did you actually transfer? Can you walk us through your story? What did you transfer from enterprise supply chain and commercial planning into the company this size? And what do you actually have to unlearn or even learn to get through this process?
Oh my God, so much. So I will say, I think corporate experience is vital. I will say working at these big companies, it taught me a lot of structure. It taught me a view on how global supply chains, global demand, global scale works. So it's really good from a learning perspective, especially when you're right out of college, right? So I was able to move up the ranks and kind of move myself into the M&A side of things, which gave me end-to-end business planning experience. I did everything from acquiring companies, scaling them, dissolving them, and also incubating brands from scratch. So I think I did have that experience where I was able to build something that did not exist. Now, of course, the budgets were massive when you're working with these large companies. You're already funded. You're working with a $15 million budget. And then when you start your own company, which this is my second company, so there's a lot of teething problems. First of all, when you're building a startup, you want venture money, you have to learn everything about that space. Fundraising, that in itself, it's another topic that I think I had to read books, I had to talk to people. I just had to fail 1 billion times. Now, failure is just a daily thing for me. So I think there are so many things that you have to unlearn with big corporations, even mid-sized companies. There's a lot of red tape and there's a lot of structure and there's a lot of processes.
Yeah.
When
And
you're
what was
building a
it?
startup, sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead.
When you're building a startup, like you have to be extremely agile. You have to be able to pivot all the time because you're honestly like building something. For instance, I'll give you my formulation example. We went through 75 iterations of this formula to get it right. And I felt like I'm just going to fail and I'm never going to get it right. Right. So you have to pivot and either innovate or just move on to something else. So I think with startup founders, I always say that there's so many things you have to unlearn, but there are certain skill sets that you have to learn as a founder is that don't take no for an answer. If you're determined and you really believe in something, keep trying, keep trying. You will find a way like I did. And as annoying as I am to a lot of investors, a lot of suppliers, I don't like taking no for an answer. And I think that's why I'm able to move quickly and do things and, just learn new skill sets that way by trying and just moving fast. So even with
So good.
50% of the information you have, you make a quick decision, which will never happen in corporate.
So walk me through that. So corporate America, and then you decided to pull the trigger. And where does this level of entrepreneurship come from? Was it just a natural thing, or does this come from family?
Um,
Like, where did it come from?
Oh God, no. I come from a family of doctors. So I call myself
Okay.
like a secondhand doctor because I just watched medicine my whole life. I was always entrepreneurial. I think since even I was a kid, like we used to make like pottery and art and whatever, just sell it to our neighbors and their parents or whatever. Like it just
Awesome.
was in me, I guess. And when I
Yeah.
was in corporate in my 20s, I'm much older now, I would like come up with these ideas. I just never did anything about it. I think like a lot of people, because you're always like waiting for that perfect time. And that time doesn't come. For me, it came because I think I had peaked myself like in my career at a place where I was a senior executive and, I was making money for other people and I was working a lot. But at the same time, my mom actually got diagnosed with cancer when I was at
Mm,
GLP. And I had to move home to take care of her and because she had like stage 4 breast cancer and she was a
yeah.
diabetic. It was a lot of work in terms of caretaking, and I'm glad I did that. But I always found myself just sitting in the cancer ward at night. I'm like, I have so much time. Let me start doing something. And that's
Mm,
how I started my first company from the hospital. And SYNQ actually has a very similar connection to that same journey. But it just came
yeah.
to me because I decided to dive right in. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'm bored of my day to day job and it's great. It's a very cushy career. I'm making so much money. But I just always had that itch. I'm like, I'm meant for something bigger and better, and I really want to solve a real problem. And I think that I just dove right in. I took my savings into the company, and soon enough, I'm like, okay, I've spent $50,000. Now I guess this is going to happen. So once you commit to yourself financially, I guess, to take the risk, you have to succeed, right? Because
Yeah.
you're not just gonna dump $50 to $100,000 and be like, all right, that was a great hobby. Bye. Like you can't do that.
Yeah.
So I think you really have to
You're
force
in.
yourself to commit to something.
For sure. So let's walk through the
Yeah.
product and sync, right? So, by the way, I've been loving your LinkedIn post, and that's actually where I found out about you. I started to follow your posts and then looked at the product, had a couple conversations with some others. I'm like, what do you think about this? And they're like, oh, yeah, this is great. We're watching it. We're watching her too. I'm like, okay, this is
All
awesome. I
right. I
have to.
love that.
I know. So walk me through the thesis, right? So you mentioned that the formulation and delivery can matter as much as the ingredient selection. And a lot of people only focus on the ingredient selection, but you're talking about formulation and delivery. Can you make the full case? What do you mean by that? And what are you doing? What problem are you solving for?
Before we dive into that, I'm going to rewind back to my mom's story because that is a very key distinction as to why I chose this delivery format.
I was gonna I was gonna ask you. I just interviewed Elias Arjan from HealthSpan, and he said, want to know
Okay.
something about these entrepreneurs in the wellness and longevity space? Most of them have some sort of personal situation that they're solving for that's hitting them at the core. So I'm so glad you're rewinding on this, and then I'll let you go. But you're just
Oh, I have
reminding me. I
several.
wanted to.
First, yeah.
Yes, tell us.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's like, I think the main thing is like, I'm also a first generation immigrant. So I'm like, I always have this chip on my shoulder. I'm like, I have something to prove. No matter how, like, I was already a senior executive. Like, I was already proving myself, but it just wasn't enough. So I think you always have
Mm,
that itch to like, I don't know who am I proving this to, but now it's for my mom. So when she got diagnosed with cancer, she was also type 2 diabetes, like her whole life. And with diabetes, what happens? Your recovery, treatment, anything, just healing becomes extremely difficult. And that's just like the reality. The issue was that during her cancer treatment and chemo, she dropped to like 82 pounds ish. And the chemo was
Yeah.
really, really intense for her. And at one point, she couldn't swallow water, food, let alone supplements. So like when you're already so malnourished and your body's like doesn't have any cells, you need
Right.
supplementation. And we just couldn't find anything. She had a Dexcom CGM, which is a glucose monitor. And I was like, okay, the idea is that this touches your blood directly when it's on your skin. So I'm like, how I can also infuse supplementation with the same technology. I actually went off to create a microneedle patch for supplementation, and it was for her. And I quickly realized that it's an FDA medical device, which I can't do because it would take years. And then I had a friend who was working as a founder of Theramune. He was creating a Narcan in a strip. And he introduced me to this technology. And that's how I started working on oral dissolving strips. My mom eventually passed away. But to me, like the biggest thing was like, I have seen diabetes my whole life. My dad is diabetic. And it causes so many health issues. So for me, I'm not solving diabetes, but at the same time, I realized how broken our delivery systems were. Like, how many capsules can you take a day? People are ingesting about 8 supplements a day. It's taking a toll on your liver, your kidney function, your gut health, everything. We're not meant to be taking that many pills a day, right? So that's how like this whole thing started. Then me and my friend, who was also my formulator, he told me about certain actives, which includes dehydroberberine. We started with berberine, then we found a better active, which is dehydroberberine. And then there's 6 other compounds, which I think this will be the first time I'll probably even share some of them because it is an IP. But yes, now that we're close to launch, we can share that and the patents are filed. So I think we're out the clear. But yeah, we chose very specific actives because you could have the best product in the world. If the delivery is broken, it's not going to work. You could have the best delivery in the world. If your actives don't work, it's not going to work. So it has to be synergistic and it has to work together. So like for the longest time, I mean, we're still on the pill format, but it does break down in your stomach acid and you end up absorbing like maybe 20 to 40% of the product. That's why you have to take larger pills multiple times a day to really absorb the full active. So that is the idea. And I'm actually not a pill swallower. I cannot take capsules. Like I struggle to take antibiotic. I almost died on my 2nd birthday. So I was like, I need to create something. And there are so many more people like me. So I did want to address that demand. So dehydroberberine. Now, diving right into the actives, what is in the product? So we have dehydroberberine, we have OEA, we have ficosanthin, we have genpeside, bicalin, and a dopamine enhancer. So we actually chose 7 actives, all of which had clinical data behind them on humans or animals. And then when we developed the product, like I said, after 75 iterations, this is definitely, I've done R&D my whole life. I will say this is the hardest thing I've ever created. So when somebody is like, oh yeah, they're going to copy this, I'm like, give it a try because it is the hardest thing, especially with taste masking. Berberine is a very, very, very compound. And so you need a lot of, education, I guess, background and R&D to be able to like crack the code on taste masking. So yes, it was very complex for us, but my idea was that, okay, what does dehydroberberine do? So dehydroberberine, like, I think you're very well versed with, AMPK and glucose and whatever. It is your AMPK master switch. So the main thing that even when we think about the GLP-1 drugs, they're diabetes medication. So for me, like blood sugar is super personal. And especially as you age, it gets worse. Like a lot of people are pre-diabetic and America is a very overweight/obese country. So I think a lot of people, when we think about just data, like I've seen from my parents, the patients and whatnot, a lot of people end up being pre-diabetic after 40. When that happens,
So you're hitting the metabolic pathways, right? And I think it's good to make a distinction because I'm sure there's a lot of people right now that are in this GLP-1, path. And rightfully so. If it works and it's the right thing to go, awesome. Right. And then there's this other option, right? And we talk about your product in the strip and it's hitting. And I've seen your posts and some of the science behind it that you share, the 5 metabolic pathways. Can you differentiate the paths a bit? Like, and what do we feel? Like, what are we going to feel with your product as we start to take the strip?
Yeah, for sure. So again, we're not competing with the GLP-1 drugs. GLP-1 drugs work, like they have proven themselves and they're fantastic for people that need
Right.
them. One thing that GLP-1 drugs didn't think about, and this is kind of on the patients, is how do you get off of it? It's kind of like a heart medication.
No,
It
no.
is Obesity is a chronic disease. So this is a lifelong medication that you have commit to stabbing yourself every week.
Okay.
I don't know how sustainable that is. And from what I have seen, because I built this brand in public with real people in communities,
Yeah.
and a lot of women, especially when they hit menopause or perimenopause, their hormones are all over the place. And a lot of them end up giving up the GLP-1 drugs for several reasons and a lot of the side effects. I'm
Right.
sure that's going to get better in the near future. But at the same time, there's no ramp off for people. So that's really our key focus. Like, we're not competing with the drugs, but we are a natural alternative for people that don't want to take the drugs, for people that cannot take the drugs, for people that want to get off of it and maintain their weight. So that is where we come in. So our product actually, so we have dehydroberberine, that's your master switch for healthy glucose. Then we have OEA that manage your satiety. So you feel less hungry. So similar mechanism, but done naturally. Then we have another compound, jumpicide, which actually helps with GLP-1 signaling. Your body does produce natural GLP-1, so we're just going to just kickstart that aggressively. So, and we have one more, ficosanthin, which targets your visceral fat. And then we have two more compounds, not going to name them, but they help increase your metabolism. And then we have mucuna, which is a velvet bean extract that supports dopamine, because cravings and eating and weight loss and metabolic health, like, we want to make it fun and we want people to actually enjoy the journey, because when you're starving and you're a food lover, it's not fun to be on either the drugs or to be taking medication or to be like, dreaming about pizza and you're like, oh, I can't take it. So we wanted to add these 5 metabolic pathways together so they work synergistically and you still get pretty solid results, and you can maintain the weight, or if you take it aggressively, you can lose the weight.
So walk me through the absorbability and the testing you've done. Why, I mean, how does it look like as you've been testing this, and what can we expect on, well, I'm going to get this amount per, let's say the DHB or something else.
Yeah.
Like, how does that
Yeah,
look like?
for sure. Let me show you how it works, okay? Because a lot of people have this question. So this is our sample. Can you see it? Or
I can. Yes. I
okay.
wish I had
So
some.
you open the pouch, right? And then
Yeah.
you peel the strip. So this is a strip. What I'm going to do is you can either put it on your tongue, which I'm going to be talking. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put it on the roof of my mouth. So let me show you. Yeah, it's like a Listerine strip. Now it's stuck to my mouth. So I have a little bit of a lisp.
I'm so glad you said it, because I didn't know how you felt about that, but it's like a Listerine strip is what it seems like. And I used to love those, and I love the way it felt.
Yeah. So what Listerine
Wow.
did for breath, we have done for metabolism.
I
So
love it.
now
Oh,
the way the product works, it's still sitting on the roof of my mouth. So it's stuck and it's just going to absorb through my submucosal membrane. So now the science behind this is when you let something absorb through the mouth, now think about the Zyn pouches, like nicotine pouches. People just have it in their buccal cavity, right? It absorbs directly into the blood. So anytime you're absorbing something through your mouth and into like your submucosal membrane, it goes directly to your blood. So for me, when I was developing this product, I had the ingredients. I wanted to have this oral dissolving strip technology. Our main goal was, how do I get something directly to the blood? Couldn't do the needles, so this was the second best option.
Yeah.
So this is why for us, it was very, very important to then also run another human trial on top of, our clinical ingredients and, the clinicals on our ingredients as well, because everybody was like, well, how do you know this works? So when we created
let's talk about the evidence.
Yeah. And I think for us, like, even for marketing, like, even for me as a founder, like, I don't want to bring something to the market and to the consumers where I haven't tested it, and B, like, a lot of people haven't tried it. For me to be able to even talk about it and sell something, I want to make sure that we're doing right by the brand, right by the consumers. So we actually did a third-party lab study through a doctor, and he studied 100 people. It was a controlled study. And across that, we also had a placebo arm in that. Across that, we saw people lose up to 16 pounds. So it was done in 2 parts. So 50% of the people did 1 strip a day. The other 50% did 2 strips a day. So the weight was BMI between 25 and 35. That is overweight and obese. Like, anything over that, please go to the drugs. Like, just call it a day. Like, you need that, because if it's workout is not helping, like, you need additional help. So that's like really where our happy medium is. So that was our target market. And what we saw that people had lost in 6 weeks on the high side, up to 16 pounds. On the low side, 6 to 8 pounds. Blood sugar was the biggest marker for us. So fasted glucose was down minus 31 mg per DL.
Wow.
Which is
That's
huge.
massive.
And we did
Yeah.
also a test where if you skip the strip for a few days, because we actually in the middle of the study, we ran out of stock. So then we had to supplement them and everybody's glucose went back up. So that was a really good marker for us to be able to say like, okay, this does, because of the DHB and because of the another ingredient that actually helps with blood glucose stability, we know that this actually does target that. And then we also saw changes in the waistline. That's the only way to measure visceral fat. So that was down by 2.3 inches in 6 weeks. So that's a pretty good marker for us that the product is actually good. Yeah, you're not going to compete with the drugs, but at the same time, from a natural perspective, we sit between the current supplements and the pharma drugs.
I mean, I can't believe the significant impact of glucose, which is huge, right? And that's obviously, I mean, you take a look at everyone that we mentioned, overweight, obese, and their glucose levels, their fasting glucose levels are through the roof.
And if
It's
your glucose
insane.
is that high all the time, basically what happens, like after every meal, our glucose goes like this, right? This is like
Right.
basically variable glucose. When you take the strep, you start to see glucose kind of like level out. And that's when you don't crave food so much. You don't have these, cravings like when you're just like thinking about food all the time. The food noise, all that goes down. So when all that goes down, it's like, okay, you've fixed your baseline of your blood sugar and you're at a stable baseline. Now you can actually start seeing changes in the body composition over time.
So I'm curious, right? And by the way, as you were explaining that whole GLP rebound, I've been there. I'm on now I microdose a bit, but when I was doing them heavy and I got off of it, I mean, my weight just skyrocketed right back. So how does this support that like tapering off period? Have you thought about that? Can this be a GLP taper? Like, hey, you know what? I'm going to transition
That is
to now.
basically our messaging. We're not going out in the
Love it.
markets. Of course, we have evolved our messaging from like super pre-launch. I started doing this in February and my launch is like not even happened yet. We have evolved our messaging. So initially, yes, we were like, oh, a GLP-1 alternative. Now we're just saying that we are the ramp off for GLP-1 drugs. If you wish to get off, I think this is like a good natural product to help you maintain your weight and lose more if you want to. Like everybody all the time loves a good 5 to 15 pounds that they want to lose. Like I think that's most people that I talk to. Like I'm very skinny, but I can always lose 5 pounds. So I take the strips, especially before a vacation. So I think it works really well. And I think my dad has been on the strips and he's in medicine and he stopped taking his metformin and he has replaced that with the strips. So for me, that's like a really good signal for people that, okay, well, you can maintain your weight, you can maintain your healthy vitals. And I think to me, it's like that's solving a really big problem for people like me, people like him, and, people that are just high stress and they're aging. And, it's just more, it's preventative than reactive. So to me, that's really where the happy medium for us is.
Yeah. And I know you're focusing on the launch, and I mentioned earlier you have over 4,000 people on the wait list, and you're probably not. Well, you probably are. You're so bright. You're thinking. I'm thinking peptides. Obviously, it's real hot right now, and even just the whole supplement industry. And clearly, there's injections, there's pills. I'm like you. I hate pills. I get that is terrible gag reflex. I'm like, I just can't take another one. Like if it says 2 capsules, I'm done. I'm like, if it's 1 capsule, I might make it. But if it says on the label 2 capsules, I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. It's over. I'm not happy.
I'll take it in the evening that I'll just make up my own dose. But I'm like, it's just so hard. But back to peptides. Peptides are in strips now.
Yeah. So walk me through that because I'm curious about the absorbability there as well. And I'm seeing a lot of, aerosol or so inhaling something in, obviously the injections and pills.
Right.
But I'm curious about the technology around the strips and can this be used for peptides and other hormone therapy?
Yeah, for sure. So, the technology, okay, so there's different ways of testing this. So like you have to do assay testing once you have the product on the strip. So you can do assay testing that costs about $60,000. It's very expensive. But at the same time, you could also do absorption tests, which also it's pretty expensive, but we work with a pharma grade supplier and they have their own data. They have their own proprietary technology. So they were actually able to help us test the absorption. And then of course, when we did the human study, it was like a confirmation for us that everything that we were claiming, we're like, okay, we can see how the product works. And there is absorption. Cause like when you do take the strip, you're not going to feel the dehydroberberine work immediately, but you do feel the dopamine hit you.
Yeah.
Like you just like calm down and you're chilling and you're just like, oh, I feel great. So
Like
for
that.
us, like that's another measure of like, okay, the absorption is pretty good. And we are going after the data points of, and I think at one point you did mention the Daltons, like the molecular weight and all of that. The actives that we chose, we want to make sure that they work well on the strip. And when you think about absorption, whether it's through intestines or whether it's through the mouth, the molecules have to be fat soluble for it to work. So for us, that was amazing. I mean, we specifically chose certain ingredients. We had to swap some out. I had 13 before and I had to lower them to 7.
The life of a founder, right? It's like pivot. You got to pivot. It's like, don't take no for an answer. This is going to happen, right?
Constantly. Yeah. So that's why I think I was like limiting myself because I'm like, okay, they have to be X amount of Daltons for them to actually work. So we actually made sure that all our 7 actives are within the healthy range of the Daltons that, our chemist had looked at. So yeah, the final formula is solid and we're excited to launch.
Wow, that's so cool.
So now going back to peptides and other delivery formulas. Strips so we are actually going to be launching after the GLP-1 alternative. We are getting into alcohol replacement. I've already formulated. That's my favorite product. I love it. It's in capsule format right now because I've just done like a lot of testing with people at concerts and whatnot, and it works really well. Then we're getting into the entire peptide stack. So our company is going to be a fully oral dissolving strip technology. We're going to be taking people's biomarkers and their data to actually make informed decisions and personalizing their stack over time. So peptides is going to be a big part of that. And then we're getting into hormone health as well. So it's going to be a lot of SKUs that are going to come through, but all in oral dissolving strip technology.
So that's a different roadmap, right? Because I'd imagine the strip is classified as a supplement, right? And a lot easier to get out into the market, over the counter, what have you. But then as you start to get into peptides and hormones, you're now talking about drugs, right? Medical, there's compliance, there's regulation. Oh, yeah. And I mean, how do you get through all of that? What does the roadmap look for that?
So peptides, since you take them, it's a gray area. Like Reta's not out. People are on Reta. I know millions of people are on Reta. So the other peptides, BPC, NAD, NMN, glutathione, like all of these hormones and peptides, they're not prescription. There's no prescription. There's so many companies. And I feel like with RFK and the regulations that we have seen and the approvals for certain peptides, you actually can easily sell them.
Yeah, at the time of this recording, we saw what happened last week, right? We saw what happened with 5 different peptides now. God, they're released off the kind of regulatory schedule. It's doing, now we can take them.
Yeah. I also think like peptides are so deep into the population now. I think cracking the code on it's going to be very difficult. And I think that's what happens when something is like too into the mainstream. Like it's hard to like. So I think I'm not too worried about the peptides. I think when it comes to hormone health, we actually are going to be looking at natural alternatives. We're not looking into bringing medication or any like, sexual wellness. When we think about that, I'm not going to put Cialis into a strip. It's going to be a different plant-based alternative that works pretty well. And I think there's a lot of people that are moving towards holistic medication, are moving towards longevity. I don't want to keep the mission of our company the same, that we are a supplement nutraceutical company with clean ingredients and we are all natural. So that's really going to be the core focus for us.
Okay, so I think that's a major differentiator. I'll be honest, and you mentioned I use peptides, I use GLPs, right? And at times I'm wondering, what the heck am I putting in my body? And then I see a product like yours and I listen to you chat and I'm like, I think and again, it's not to say these are bad. They're for a reason, and clearly the science is working, and the population, it's starting to grow, right? The adoption of it. Yeah. But for those that don't want to worry about the lengthy list of all the ingredients that are like medically grade and all that, and you want to go the holistic route, the natural route, this is a game changer. This is amazing, and the delivery is even easier, which I think you're on the money. This is great.
I think one thing I do want to caution, I think whoever is listening is, I'm just going to give an example just so people get that. I'm obviously not a doctor, but I pretend to be one, I guess, just because I have the knowledge. But my friends started taking, and this is more of a caution for women. Men have that issue too, but I think it's mostly women. Like a lot of women have like fibroids or cysts or, just a dormant tumor or something in their uterus, for instance. Like I think it's like a very much of a very common issue with women, especially during like fertility and like while you're fertile and premenopause. When somebody starts prescribing you peptides just without even looking at your body, without checking your biomarkers, without doing a scan, and I think this is why people should go to a doctor actually doing your entire CBC to really understand like if your body needs those peptides versus like, my friend in Miami is doing this and he looks good, so I'm going to do it. This hot girl at the gym told me that she's doing this, so I'm going to do it and start taking growth hormones. Those tumors, fibroid cysts are going to grow. Like people don't even know what HRH is. And to me, like I even talk to people, I'm like, oh, are you on GLPs? They're like, yeah, I'm on GLPs. I'm like, what do you think about peptides? They're like, so against it. I'm like, GLP is a peptide. So I think it's like the basic knowledge for consumers is lacking. And I feel like it is the responsibility for the brands. It is a responsibility for any company that's bringing anything out to the market to educate people on how things work. The good, bad, and the ugly, right? Because that's the only way like you're actually being fair to the consumer because they're putting this into their bodies without even knowing what they mean. So I think that's very much of a caution. And I think for us, the reason why we're building something in the holistic space and actually also collecting data for consumers to be able to personalize their health stack for them, that is really the reason because I'm like, there's just such lack of education and everyone wants to be fit and healthy. So for us, holistic is the way to go.
Curious on storage and temperature, right? Many of the peptides, you have to store it at a certain temp, typically in the fridge and all of that as soon as.
Yeah.
How does that work for yours? Can it be on the shelves all day? And what's the shelf life?
So shelf life is 2 years. It comes vacuum sealed in a pouch, right? So each strip has to be vacuum sealed. So it kind of preserves the entire molecule, anything that's on the strip. So it preserves that. That's why each pouch has to be, one strip has to be in a pouch. So we can store it at room temperature, 2 year shelf life. It works just like a supplement. It's going to come in like it's outer carton. And so, just store at room temperature, pretty stable.
I don't know if you're ready to share it, but I mentioned it. You have over 4,000, 4,800, almost 5,000, probably even more now that at the time of this recording. Walk me through the unit economics. I mean, have you landed on a price point yet? Like, what does this look like? What's the cost per strip? What's for anything that you can share in regards to how you're going to drive revenue from a price point, and then if you can share the costs as much as you want to share.
We have a pretty big wait list. We spend zero marketing dollars in collecting those wait lists because when I started building this brand, I was in all the communities. I was talking to thousands of women. So when we got too close to building this product, I was working with these girls and I was like, guys, I want to do this. This is what I'm working on. They were like, sign me up. Like my body can't handle any of the drugs. I don't want to take it. I have side effects. I have all of these things. And that's how we actually got these signups. Now for the pricing, we also agreed upon the pricing or decided the pricing with these women. And our price is actually $70 for a 30-day pack. So 30-day of these strips would be 30 pouches in a box. And that is priced at $70. So the way we're structuring this is that if you want to maintain your weight, you want to get on a trial, take the 30-day size. If you want to actively lose weight, then you would take 2 strips a day and that becomes a 60-day supply because you have to take it every day. But it's like on the go. It's very much on the go product.
Amazing.
So that instead of paying $140 for a 60-day supply, we're going to have $110 incentive for them to get 60-day supply if they get on the subscription. So that is actually what we're doing that keeps our AOV high. Our margins are anywhere from 85 to 92%. So it's pretty good for us. That's what I'm going to share on the unit economics.
That's so good. No, that's good enough. That's amazing. I'm excited for you. And how does, from a founder's lens, now that you're ready to rock, right? And you have the demand, the products there. This is your world from supply chain to ops to commercial strategy. What is your team? What's the internal team look like? I don't get an opportunity to chat too much about that with founders. And I think this would be a good opportunity as you're building it publicly. What's the roadmap look like internally?
So we are actively fundraising right now. Our launch timeline is actually 8 to 10 weeks from now, from today.
Wow.
So we are launching this fall. Very excited. From a team perspective, I have my technical team. I have 3 people on my go-to-market team. And
Yeah,
then, yeah, I have like social media, TikTok,
sure.
Amazon. Like I have all those people in place. We are going to be very lean. I believe in lean
Yeah,
teams, but at the same time, like it's one
yeah.
SKU. You really like, you don't need all that. But yeah, so we are going to have we are hiring. So we're going to be about 6 to 8 people.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
how do you introduce AI to all of this? Is that something that is already top of mind, or is that something
Yeah.
down the road from like I think about your protocols, your hyper personalized protocols that you're looking to do?
So we are working on an AI layer. So we are going to be launching with that on our platform. So again, I keep saying it's a platform because it is a platform. So,
Yeah,
for me, like when I think like I'm extremely healthy, I'm like very much into my health. So I do my function health twice a year. I actually do other CBCs as well, just to stay on top of my health, just to see like how my
for
biomarkers
sure.
are changing. So it's very important that people are doing that. And I think a lot of people do that with their physical, going to their doctor, you get the CBC. What we're doing is we're having people upload that into the system in our
Okay.
platform. And then we're going to
Yeah.
be able to like track based on that how they are, dealing with the strips. Like, do they even need it? Do they not need it? Like, we're going to be very candid. We are not afraid of saying no to a consumer to be like, your health profile doesn't make sense for this, or we don't recommend this. Instead, go to like either, go to a doctor or go to this drug or go to like another competitor of ours. Like, we don't care. I think for us, the goal is to be very candid with the consumers and actually tell them like what we do recommend, what we don't recommend. And as we scale with multiple SKUs, we're going to be personalizing their health stack. So like, when I have the peptides, when I have the hormone health SKUs and like your regular supplements, we can actually say like, okay, well, you're iron deficient. These are the iron strips that you need with the GLP-1 alternative, but also you should take glutathione because of XYZ biomarkers. So I think that's really where we want to get the AI side of things built in. And then, of course, AI is also going to be there for customer service and customer
Right.
retention and all that. So I think everybody's doing that now. So
That's good. And I love how open-minded you are on the protocol and what you would guide people to take. But I find that on the traditional side of traditional medicine and the docs, they typically aren't so open-minded to the holistic natural route. And if this is almost like a taper off the GLP, right? And to substitute in a sense, how do you convince the doctors to recommend your platform? And I'm wondering if you've thought about the challenge, because I could just see some just sticking to the traditional pharmaceutical side of things, right? And not want to go over to what is working and what has
of course,
scientific
I mean,
back.
I always say America runs on drugs. Like, and that's
Mm,
that's a fact. Okay, nobody can deny that. Like, we
right.
love our. I'm talking about pharma drugs, but at the same time, I feel American healthcare is very reactive. I just got back from Korea. I did a blood
Mm,
panel there. They checked 200 biomarkers without me asking.
wow.
The doctors are more about holistic medication there than pharma. Like
Mhm,
with pharma, I think pharma drugs are fantastic for the intention that they were created for. But at the same time, like as you're aging and you're not healthy, our food is so processed, like we're just not ingesting healthy things into our bodies. So we are more prone to all of these side effects and diseases and whatnot, but also we are reactive. So if people are into wellness that are talking about I'm a wellness junkie, I'm a biohacker, I'm all of this. These are the people that are looking at holistic medicine before they start injecting themselves with, pharma stuff. And pharma stuff is great when it works, but at the same time, like there's so many other things that end up breaking as well. Like prime example, like if I take antibiotics, my sister would always pop amoxicillin. It was like a thing. She's
mm.
like, I'm coughing, I'm going to take amoxicillin. Now, antibiotics don't really work on her. I'm like, you are immune. Like
Yes,
nothing is going
ma'am.
to work on you. You have to like move to a
Yeah.
higher dose. So I think
Mm,
people need to understand like this is what will happen if you like keep doing something for too long and you're replacing something for too long, something else is going to break in your body because nobody understands the physiology. Even like some of the approvals that happen, you're not checking the full
mm,
physiology, like
yeah.
every cell in your body. So I think a lot of people are seeing that and I think they are transitioning and looking forward for natural solutions. But when it comes to like how we will convince the doctors, we are working with telehealth. We are also working with a lot of nutritionists and holistic doctors and front row MD because every supplement company is now working with front row MD. So it is doctor
Yeah.
recommended or referral based platform. So we are going to be doing that as well. And then of course we have doctors on our board that are going to be talking about it. I think there's so many, naturopaths, and there's so many doctors like Dr. Dawn Masalam. Like she has a really fantastic story, like cancer, heart transplant, like all of this. And now she's super into holistic medicine. So we are seeing a big shift. I think when it comes to medicine, people are shifting more towards the natural way of life, growing their own vegetables and just taking cleaner food and supplements. So I think the space is going to grow.
Excellent. I've had a couple, actually quite a few. If you go back to the library of all the episodes, many women founders that have been on this show. And it's interesting. We've had some conversations around the struggles and some of the things that I've been naive to around women getting SBA loans and funding from VC. And it's been great. This is actually a reason why I do this show. I'm a learner. And some of these stories that have just kind of pulled at my heartstrings. I'm like, how could this be? You've brought up, as you've been in the trenches, kind of doing your grassroots marketing and speaking to many women, I'd imagine that many of them that are in corporate America are inspired by your work ethic and your grit. And this is my last question for you because I want to be respectful of your time. But what is a lasting message that you'd want to give to those women that are in corporate America and they just don't want to pull their trigger to become an entrepreneur? What would you share with them? What would you want to tell them?
God, I think in this time of AI, I will tell women one thing. I'm like, and I think this is a mindset I had too, because I understood AI like I think 5 years ago, like how big it could be. I think people need to really like, if you have always had the itch to do something, that you have always thought about doing something, just try. You don't have to quit your job. You can do it on the side. And once you start monetizing, then obviously focus your full attention to that. But there is a few things. I think for women, like I always tell women, like no matter your status, marital status, relationship status, or whatever, be financially independent. Now, if a corporate job gets you there, it's safe. It is safe for a lot of people. Women are very risk averse, as like we just are. We're taught to be like that. I think as long as you're financially independent, definitely make sure you are that. And lastly, I think we got to think about, even when I was in corporate, I was like, is my job going to be around like in the next 5 years? I think with AI, a lot of jobs are going to be gone. And, for like every 100 jobs that we used to look at on Indeed or whatever, now there's like 3. So I think that's definitely a real marker of like where the future is headed. So even if you have a small business, I don't know, you're making jewelry, you're selling that and you're monetizing like $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month. I think a small business is better than not having any income. So I think I always tell people, or even younger kids, I'm like, if you want to do this, anybody can do it. Just start somewhere. And you don't have to take the full risk up front. Start small, do it on the side. And then once it gets to a point where you need to quit, then quit.
Excellent. Great advice. I love it. I'm right there with you. So good. Oh my goodness. I can't wait for your product, your platform. For those that want to learn more, like how can they reach out to you or learn more about SYNQ Wellness?
So guys, follow us on social media. It's SYNQ_wellness because there's another Canadian company with a similar name. So actually we are solving that problem right now. But our website is sync-wellness.com. And sign up for your pre-orders. There is a founder special. It's $49. Because post-launch, it's going to be $70. So you will be locked in for that price for the rest of your lives. And then give us a shout, DM me on sync_wellness on Instagram or TikTok.
I love it. Awesome. We'll
Or
make sure to put
LinkedIn.
that
Reach
in
out
the
to me
show
on
notes.
LinkedIn.
Can't forget about LinkedIn. I love it. Well, we talked a little bit about unit economics and forecasting your whole world, right? I think, I'm really excited about what you've put together. And for any fitness, wellness, or longevity operator, franchisor, or franchisee who's looking to go a little bit deeper on unit economics or financial modeling, private equity readiness, we talked about capital raise prep. Make sure to reach out to me on LinkedIn or at strategointel.com. This has been another episode of the Owner Seat Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Albert Ramos. And if this is your first time tuning in, episodes drop every Monday and Friday at 8 a.m. Central. Thank you so much. Lekha, I appreciate you. This was awesome.
Albert,
and I
it
got to
was
learn
fun.
a lot about your business. Thank you. We all did.
Thank you so much for having me. Chat soon.
My pleasure. Chat soon. See you soon.